Hey guys, it's Marina with Artworthy Life, where I teach Christ-centered art journaling that gets you into God's Word every day. Happy Veterans Day, everybody. I think I might have had an echo. Uh-oh. You guys will have to tell me if there was an echo just then. So I'll just repeat that. Happy Veterans Day, everybody. And today we are going to do a Veterans Day inspired art journal page with a really fun little sailor on it, because my daddy was a sailor. He was also a Army officer for 3 years, but most of his career was Navy, and he retired from the military with 22 years under his belt. So thank you, Dad, for your service. I love you, and I'm so proud of everything that you did and gave up for the country. And we all know you did and still are. And thank you all of you veterans out there, and anyone who's watching, please pass this along to your family as well. We so appreciate them, and we know it is a huge sacrifice, and that is just more than we can ask for. And they gave it all, didn't they? Some all gave some, and some gave all. So, as always, to start us off on the right foot, the best place to start our day is in the Word of God. So we are going to read a scripture that I thought was very pertinent to today, and that is John 15:13. And I'm sure most of you know this verse, but it's a great verse for Veterans Day. Of course, it's in regards to Jesus Christ, but it's applicable today. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. That's John 15:13. And what's lovely about that is it's so true. Greater love has no man than to lay down his life for his friends. So we're so grateful for people that sacrifice for their families and their friends. But frankly, military guys lay down their life every day for people that don't even appreciate them, frankly. I mean, I'm just saying it like it is. And that is so Christ-like, because Jesus laid down his life for us while we were yet sinners. Christ died for us. And the fact that a soldier or a sailor or any military person lives that out in living color is such a huge, eye-opening example of what Christ did for us. So anyway, great verse. Speaking of me, Padre. Hi, Daddy-o. He says, amen. I didn't know you were watching. I'm not sure if I can handle that. Love you. Happy Veterans Day, or I should say, thank you for your service. Good morning, Daniel. Thanks for watching. Okay, so we're going to do a Veterans Day page, and now that my dad's on, I have to show off my little sailor. Check it out, Daddy. I was going to try to hide that from you, but anyway, now you know. Okay, so the doodle that I drew today, I just drew freehand, and I have it on here, a tracer that I made up for myself. And then I traced it onto my journal page with graphite paper, so it's on here, and it's also right now covered in masking fluid, very messily. I'm not sure if that's a word. Anyway, very messy, but the masking fluid keeps that white sailor outfit nice and white and clean, so that when you paint the background, it's not going to be all messy. But I didn't have time to do that on this live, so if you want to know how to put masking fluid on your page and 2 really good tips on how to use it without making a huge mess, even though I'm a messy person and probably would, there's a great short video in the Art Journaling DIY group, which is a free group, and it's under today's date, Veterans Day, and that is our 15-minute Friday. So if you want a little more than you get here every week on Fridays, there's a short 15-minute Friday that comes before this, and it's in that group. Sometimes it's related to what we're doing out here, and sometimes it's not, but it's always something special in there, and you're more than welcome to join me there as well. So if you want to know how to do that, that video's over there. I'm not going to explain it here, but we used masking fluid, and that was fun. Hey, Grandma. Love you too. Dad is watching right now, so you could talk to him if you wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to move my camera over, and I'm also going to move my face over so that it's not so big. It's going to get big first. There we go. And you'll see more of my hands. Perfect. So let's see if this is going to, hopefully you guys are able to see that clear enough. Daddy says hi to you, Grandma. Grandma says hi to Dad. That's so great. I got like the Irishes on, or the gulls. But anyway, It's fun. Okay, we are going to start off with the background of this page. Oh, one more thing. I want to mask off the outer edges of this as well. So we got this goopy, ugly looking masking fluid, but I'm also going to mask off the outer edge of it because I feel like a page looks way cleaner when the edges have this like cute little frame around the outside. So I'm going to take our, this is washi tape actually. It's not regular masking tape, but I feel like it works better than masking tape most of the time. So I'm just going to tape it about 1/4 inch around the outer edge, actually a little bit less than that, around the outer edge of this page. That's going to keep that nice and clean. Whoops. And that will make sure no paint gets under there while I'm trying to paint the background. So we'll do some on this side. And the masking fluid is going to do the same thing. It's going to keep paint from being in that area. So we're just using 2 different kinds of resist techniques. One is the tape and one is the masking fluid. It takes a little tiny bit of prep work, but it makes the actual painting process way easier. So much easier. The only thing that I don't love about using masking tape and or washi tape is that the colors distract me, like the color of the washi tape. So just for your information, you can actually purchase colorless tape or white tape or beige tape that's specifically art watercolor masking tape. It's a little more pricey, and I am into doing what I can with what I already have, and I'm a little bit frugal in my craft supply purchasing. So I like to use what I already have, and I just happen to already have a bunch of washi tape that I'm not going to use for crafting, and so I end up just using that instead, and it works great. I just have to ignore the fact that it kind of messes with my head when there's like polka dots around a page that's not going to have any polka dots. It's kind of different. Same with the masking fluid. There is masking fluid that dries clear, and it doesn't mess with your eyes when you're trying to match color and stuff, because this ugly kind of greenish yellow stuff is kind of nasty looking. And when you're painting a big painting and you're really trying to play with color and get everything right, it can be frustrating to have that be like this really weird, gross green color. So there is masking fluid that dries clear and dry. And I think some of the ladies in our art group have a really nice one by Winsor and Newton, potentially. One of the ladies, it seems like she had some. All of those are really good. They basically do the same job. Those are a little bit better quality, so they're easier to work with. But yet again, I just got what I could get. And I also like to just show you guys, you don't have to buy the most expensive supplies, and you can still get the same results, or similar, or good enough. And good enough is good enough, right? Okay, so we're going to paint a flag, or kind of the suggestion of a flag, on the background of this page. So I'm going to start with crimson, and it's going to be a little bit dry brushed onto here. So I like to kind of get my paintbrush loaded up and kind of tap it a little bit onto a cloth or something. And I'm going to kind of guesstimate, you know how when you're in a, I don't know, a stadium, or the first image I think of is the hangar with the planes in it, but you're in a big building and they have the flags hanging instead of across. That's what we're going to imitate, is a flag hanging top to bottom. And hopefully, Dad, I don't get it backwards or something. I don't know. You can tell me if it's wrong. But anyway, we're going to do, there's like etiquette on which direction flags can face and all of that. And he's been out of the military too long. I can't remember. So I'm just going to dry brush this, and I kind of tap it off on my cloth, but I want it to look a little rugged like this. So I'm not going to paint in the stripes perfectly. And I'm not even going to try to make sure that they're the right count or anything, just getting the color down on the page. Now here's where the masking fluid comes in handy. I can paint right up to this guy and even over the top of him, and I know that area is not going to end up painted, which is so nice. And then I'll just bring this stripe up here. And again, I'm not trying to get the count. I think I have it right though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It would be 4 down here. Maybe I can just bring this one across, right? 13. That would be 7. I think it's 4 on the bottom. Correct? Anybody know? I think there's 4 red stripes on the bottom. I don't know. I think this is right. This looks kind of sloppy, but it looks right. I'll just make this one a little longer. Okay, so, and what I don't want, and I did a little bit here, but what I don't want is to blend super well. I actually want my brush to kind of drag across the page. So I'm trying not to add a lot of water to the brush. That's what's going to keep the stripes looking kind of rugged. Oh, by the way, I'm using my long Princeton brush, number 10, long round. And if you want to know what kind of paint I use, there it is on the screen. You can look that up. It's a really fun palette that a lot of us ladies in the Artworthy Journal Club use, and it's been fabulous. Okay, now I'm going to take the same red, and I won't do this unless this is already drying, and this is like basically dry because I'm using so little. I'm going to go ahead and hide this again. Because I'm using so little water, it's drying really fast, and so I can just go back with the next layer. But if your page is still wet, you don't want to go with the next layer because then it will blend and it won't look kind of scratchy and rough. And I'm just going to lay the belly of my brush down a little bit more on the page and do another layer of that red. This is full pigment red, but it's not going on very strong because I'm being careful not to press too hard. So not a lot of water and not a lot of pressure. That's just going to give it that. Oh, I just realized I didn't bring the stripe from above down here. There we go. That's this one right here. So I'll just continue that. There we go. And I always like to point out, but this is the ugly stage of the art. You know, have you ever been trying to fix your hair or trying to get dressed or whatever, and in the process you have to like put your hair in curlers, or maybe you have, I don't even know, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, in the process of getting ready, at some point you look like a little bit of a hot mess. And in that process, there's always an ugly stage. You're getting to the pretty stage. You haven't gotten there yet. There's always an ugly stage. This is the ugly stage of this. And what you have to do is trust that it's going to turn out okay, because if you get discouraged in the ugly stage, you're never going to get to the cool final product. So right now it's looking pretty rough, but that's kind of the point. It's okay to look rough right now. And we're just going to keep going. I'm just adding layers and layers of this red and gradually getting slightly darker. My brush is getting more and more dry. And I'm just kind of scratching it onto the page. That really rough texture. And I really want to go, I want to show you this. I really want to go all the way up to the edge of the masking tape, because otherwise you won't even know that there's a cool crisp line right there. So especially on this outer stripe, I'm making sure I'm really painting in over top of that masking tape. On all of these edges, I'm going right up to the tape. And then even over here, making sure I'm all the way up against that tape, because otherwise you won't see that really nice line. Oops, I'm going to keep moving this back and forth. Maybe I'll back it up a little bit more. There we go. Now you can see a little more. So really close to the edges, but still leaving white space. So see how much white space is like scratched into those stripes? It's not solid red. I'm going to do the same thing right up against this guy, make sure he's nice and painted. Okay, now I'm actually going to just grab a little bit of some kind of darker color because I want to make the flag look a little bit distressed. I don't want to grab straight brown because that'll make it look kind of muddy. I also don't want to grab black because that could be too harsh. So I'm just going to grab deep blue, which is number 90. And I know that seems weird, but it will deepen my red and allow me to do some shading around the outer edge, but not make it too dark and colorless. So I've got that, I picked that up on my palette here and just kind of mixed it in with the red a little bit, and I'm using that really dry brush, and now I'm just going to distress this flag a little with some of that blue. It also just adds color, and I'm mostly going to concentrate it around the outer edges, kind of to frame the page in a little bit. You can go pretty strong on that edge without losing your red. I want to come back when I don't want it to be blended in like that. Okay. So still trying to use a dry brush for this. Isn't that interesting how you can distress it with a blue? It doesn't look too strange. I'm actually going to pull some of the blue onto the white, just so the white actually isn't perfect either. Because if the white is perfect, when the red is distressed, it'll just look like there's bars across the page instead of a flag. You want it to all look like one piece of fabric, and it would distress evenly across the fabric if it were a real flag. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for that right now. While I have the blue on my brush, I'm going to clean the red off a little bit and pick up some of that deep blue. And I'm going to use that for the stars section. Did anyone ever tell me whether or not I have the flag stripes right? I know there's 13, but yeah. Did I get the, like, which side of the flag they're on correct? Okay, now this is just going to be real simple, going straight from the top and pulling down. And as I pull down, I'm just letting it be distressed like that. And I'm going to take this side and just go up a little bit. So it has a nice little edge there. But I really don't want it to be painted in. Okay, now I'm going to use that dark blue, whatever's left on my brush, and just distress the flag a little bit more and dry my brush off a lot. I'm violently drying my brush off over here in the corner where you guys can't see, because I want to have the blue but not have it wet. If it's wet, it just smears and doesn't create. Here comes my fingers, my favorite art tool. Just get that off of there. Okay, see how that's making it look distressed? Isn't that neat? It's funny, when we're talking about anything else, something in distress would be bad. But in art, it's just an art term. So you can have a very distressed looking flag, and it's okay. I'm going to grab some red, actually, and mix this into my blue over here. Basically, I'm creating the same dark depth that I've created over here. I had red with blue on it. Now I'm going to have blue and use my red to darken it up a little. I'm going to grab a little off my palette and just brush it into the blue over here. Only in the dark areas, not in the light white areas. That's going to distress that a little bit and make it look more presentable. Just want it to look like it's evenly distressed along with the red stripes, just like they were. And take a little bit of blue and come back over here. My brush is getting more and more dry, which makes it harder to put the paint on, but it keeps me from accidentally putting too much color down on the page. So I'm just keeping it nice and dry. I want this little section right here to dry. It's creating a overworked area, so I need that to dry before I can do anything more to it. I'm just going to kind of leave it alone. Okay, now I'm going to use the rest of whatever random colors on my brush to distress the white on here. And that's kind of cool looking. Okay, while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and take off the masking fluid, and this just kind of rolls off. You can use a actual tool for that. Daniel says he thinks the blue, I think you're talking about this, should be on the left. I'm not sure. That's why I asked, because it seems like whatever it was felt like it was backwards. So I'll have to ask Dad at some point, if he's not on anymore, what the rule is. I know that on their arm, if they have their patch right here, their body is like a flagpole, and the blue goes in the front as if the flag is flying backwards, away from them, like a flagpole. So the blue would be here. It would be on the front on this side, but it would be on the other side. It would look like it was backwards on this side. So it's always the blue in the front and the flag to the back. So I can't remember. Oh well. Maybe he's standing behind it. If it's wrong, maybe he's standing behind it. I should have looked it up, but whatever. Truth be told, I didn't want the blue to distract from him. So anyway. We'll have to figure it out. I'm always curious about stuff like that. We did a lot of flag etiquette in our homeschooling, because Dad was military, and learned all that stuff. So it still like bugs me if a flag falls on the ground, or if someone wears a actual flag as clothing. That's not proper flag etiquette. Like, you can wear stars and you can wear stripes, but if you actually take a flag and make it into something, you're not supposed to do that. Like, actually take a real flag and do that. Can't remember what all. We had like this little booklet that told us everything we needed to know about flag etiquette. And then Dad had some extra training in addition to that, obviously, that had to do with the way a ship is set up, and it's like everything in the Navy has to do with the ship, even if you're not on the ship. Okay, so as you can see, this is just a silhouette, so it's not even fully formed, but I'm just kind of rubbing it off of there. But it's all nice and white because of the masking fluid kept it nice. I'm just going to kind of roll it. What you want to do is be really gentle as you pull this off, because depending on the quality of your watercolor paper and the type of watercolor paper you have, if your paper is very porous or soft, it will just rip. I'd actually tore just a tiny bit here, but not hardly at all compared to some paper I've had. This is a little bit tougher paper. So you want to just really gently, close to the page, rub it to get it off. And then try not to tear it fast, and try to just be patient, because if you're not patient, it will tear. And then you can rub something across it to take all the little bits off. This is the cork to my water jar that is now nice and muddy. And that just rubs a little bit of it off there. You can also use an eraser. Sometimes that helps. I don't see my eraser right now, otherwise I would. Ooh, I'll just use the end of this pencil. And sometimes that helps get a little bit of the extra off. But once you have it off, now you have this really great, clean, white area where you can paint. So we're going to do that. And some of my tracer lines went away, so I'm going to draw those in really fast. I drew the original drawing, but I like to do my freehand on a scratch paper so that I can do any erasing I need to do over on the scratch paper instead of on the watercolor paper itself. But since some of that came off, I'm just going to go ahead and do it here. Like that. Gotta love a man in uniform. I always felt like the sailor uniforms were some of the most flattering for the guys, and it's had a great look to them. But I'm probably partial. I don't know why, but I probably am. Okay, let's see. And this is why I don't like to use pencil on watercolor paper, because if you erase, you kind of have to deal with the little bits and pieces. But it's worth it to get the shape right now. I'm just gonna emphasize his face again, and then that cute sailor hat. Dun, dun, dun. Fun. So sweet. All right, so now we can use our watercolors to just fill this guy in. Ooh, my flag is drying. So I'm going to do more of the flag, and then we'll work on the little guy. So just wanted to add a little bit more color to the page. I'm going to add a little bit of blue right there where that little spot was that I was seeing. a little bit here. And I am going to get just a touch of black to darken up the edges here. So I want to see that distressed look. But I basically have like a blue-black mixture that's not too dark. Whoops. Try not to throw my brush. And then right here it was starting to do that again. So I'm going to fill those in as well. Get a little bit of red. Just looking for areas where it doesn't look super smooth. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to peel this off because I always like that. That's like my favorite part. Here we go. Ooh, isn't that beautiful? Yeah, Miss Leslie. That makes sense, doesn't it? I'm a little partial to that particular outfit. Okay, that's pretty cute. My blue looks like it's a little small for the actual flag, but I'm going to get over it. I also think I maybe have the stripes wrong because I think it's supposed to be white, but it really doesn't matter. It still looks like a flag. I think the white goes all the way across now that I'm like looking at it, because I made this one and I was like, that looks right with the 4 and then the white and then the, but oh, then I have too many stripes down here. I don't know. I should have looked at it first, but it doesn't really matter. It's supposed to just look like it's a background. It's not really even supposed to be a full flag, but it turns out it is almost a full flag. Now we can paint the little guy in. So he is wearing a white outfit, but it still needs shading. So I'm going to use beige, kind of a beige mixture, which is just like oranges and yellows that I've watered down that's still sitting on my palette. And I'm going to use that on the outer edges of all of the shoulders and clothing to create some shadow on this white outfit that otherwise we would think just needs to stay white, but it does still need some shading. So I basically just put that on the outer edge and then use a clean wet brush to blend it in. And I'm going to go down the pants this way. And just use a clean brush, just sweep underneath there. And I'll go on the little undershirt that's white as well. And the little lapels. And I'm just going to use this shading to darken up underneath the lapel as well, a little bit darker, because I want that to have a shadow there. And then I'll do the same thing under the shirt. So there's a shadow under there. And then kind of up underneath the arms. And I'm gradually adding a little more and a little more. He's so cute. It's interesting. I will often be just so focused on doing the shading that I can't quite appreciate the whole picture. But when I look up at the screen and see what you guys are seeing, I see the whole thing all at once instead of the little details. That's fun. Okay, I'm going to put this shading up underneath here as well. Again, a little bit darker, and then a little darker under here again. And on the inside of the leg, just wherever those darker shadows would be. Like that. And I'm just using really quick brush strokes because I don't want this to be super detailed. And then same shading I'm going to use on the hat, kind of on the side of the hat and across the top. I'm going to come up under his chin. And now I'm going to pause for a moment and slightly switch my color because I want to create a skin tone that's going to make it look like, that's going to keep it from looking like it goes skin tone, skin tone, skin tone, all the way across his clothes and everything. So it needs to be a slightly different color. So to do that, I'm just going to add a little bit more pink to my beige. And this will be the flesh tone that I use. Just kind of come up the side of his face. Might be a little too red. I might end up adding some brown to the shading. But it'll at least differentiate his skin tone from the white of his suit. There we go. Just a little bit slightly different color. I feel like I need to get closer. Oh, that might work. Okay. Now it's going to be kind of drying while I'm adding a little bit more, but I'm going to start picking up colors that don't always make sense, but it's it works with shading. So we're going to do some blue. I'm actually just going to put some blue on the inside of the leg, on the outside of the leg, down the arm. Kind of in the same areas we just were, but more, less blended, just more quick shading just everywhere. Under here, I'm going to do a little bit of blending down here so that doesn't look too weird. And I'm also going to get a little bit of red and do the same thing kind of under the arm. This also pulls in the rest of the painting, the rest of the page. It pulls in the color from the rest of the page. So it keeps it from looking like it's just sitting on top of it without being one cohesive piece. I'm going to put some blue up in the hat. Have you ever noticed that shadows look blue sometimes in photos or in paintings? Blue is like a really good color for shadow. I'm going to put some under his chin. And then just a touch on the lapel. I want to keep the lapel nice and bright as if I can, but it still doesn't need to look too bright against all this other color that's happening. Right there. Okay. Yeah, I think that's looking good. So as it dries, you'll have to add more or less depending on how dark you started on your color. But you kind of want to just like let that layer dry and then look at it again and see if it needs more. And it will depend on how much water you have in there. If you have a little more water, it might dry lighter. If you have less water, it's going to be closer to the color it was when you put it on the page. The other thing I'm trying to do is get the shadows close to the depth of color in the rest of the page. I obviously don't want to go as dark as the rest of the page because it's a white outfit, but it kind of gives it the right amount of shading if you try to match what's on the outside of the page. Okay, if I do more than that, we'll lose the fact that it's a white suit, but it is kind of distressed looking, and I think that's cool. Now, I kind of need this to dry just a little bit, but I can start using my detail brush to add the shoes and other things in. So I'm going to use my number 20 liner brush by Masters Touch. It's in their Fine Art Studio, so it's a little bit more better quality, but still super reasonably priced. And what I'm doing is I'm adding black into my dark blue. So I've got deep blue number 90 and black number 62 on my palette. And then if I mix those together, then I get this nice deep navy color. Imagine that, navy black, navy blue, that isn't harsh. And so it's not like a jet black. And that's what I'm going to use for the shoes rather than straight black. And the first shoe is going to be kind of facing me, so the toe is kind of going my direction. I'll leave a little tiny bit of shine on the shoe. And then the other one's going to be facing slightly to the right. And I'll just leave a little shine on it as well. So kind of kicking his foot out that way. Doesn't have to be very detailed. And this looks like it's dry enough that I can do the same thing for the tie around his neck. Obviously the tie is actually black. His shoes are actually black, but I'm going to still use just a really dark blue mixture so we don't have a real harsh black on this painting. And in this case, I want my brush strokes to be smooth. So I don't want those skippy lines that we were adding into the rest of the painting, because I do want this to turn out like a smoother line. Like that. I'm going to do a little knot in the middle, and you'll notice this little knot is not even touching well, maybe you can't see, but I'm basically doing a little floating square in between two lines. So it's not even touching that strap that goes around the neck. It's just floating there in the middle. Ta-da! Like that. Super cute. Ah! I love it. Hey, Christine. She says, we love our veterans. Yes, we do. Thank God for our veterans. Okay, so now that I have that filled in, that's like the details that make it go bing. Hello, Sailor Man. But what we need is to darken the edges of this. You could actually use just shading and lots of really time-consuming detail-y stuff to get the outer edge of him to look all neat and outlined. But I'm going to skip that, and I'm going to go a little quicker because I think we can do almost the same effect just with a pen. So I'm going to use my Fud pen. Basically, it's like outlining, but it doesn't, it's not as harsh as like completely markering out the outer edge. Christine says, what a sweet gesture to paint this in honor of our veterans. Thank you. Well, my daddy is a veteran. I don't know if you know that, but my dad was a sailor most of his career, and he also was in the Army for 3 years, so 22 years total. And so, yeah, I couldn't actually have the live on Veterans Day and not do something. And then the rest of the day, I'm going to go hang out with our veteran. So I think that'll be good. Okay, so what I'm going to do is use this pen and very lightly outline this guy. And I love the Fud pen because it actually imitates kind of a brush stroke. So you can kind of get that sort of skippy sketch-like effect, even though you're not using a brush. I always love sailor bell bottoms. I think they are so cool. I guess I wouldn't really care for bell bottoms on a guy typically in any other setting, but they look so good on my dad. So, I guess there's a time and a place for them. They're basically bell bottoms. They're just really wide-legged pants. So you can kind of see I'm not fully drawing every line in. I'm trying to be careful to do some really quick brush strokes that keep the drawing looking more like a little freehand sketch. So you don't even have to connect all of your lines. Your eye fills in the details. I think I could probably go, I'm going to use my pen to lengthen this little ribbon. There we go. And that'll work. So I will probably put a date on here and maybe even put a scripture across it, but I will do all of that off camera. The only thing I'm going to do on camera right now is go ahead and date this because of course it is 11/11. So I'm just going to down here in the bottom put 11.11.22. And that will finish up our live for today. So thank you guys so much for watching. As I asked before, if you didn't hear me, go ahead and drop in the comments who you know in your family or your friend group who is a veteran, and tell them thank you for their service. And we really, really appreciate it. Also, I just have to mention, today is my Nana's birthday. She passed away a couple of years ago, and her birthday was always really fun to celebrate because it was Veterans Day. And so on her 70th birthday, it was actually 11/11/11, which was called the Epic Day for Wishes. So that was pretty cool, and I always enjoyed that. We had two really special people to celebrate on 11/11 all the time. Alrighty, that's all I have for you guys. Thank you so much. If you enjoyed this, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Christine, you are so sweet. Thank you so much. Yeah, she was a sweet lady. I really appreciate that. Please give it a thumbs up. If there's anyone you think would enjoy this, tag them in it so they can see it as well, and share it on your page if you'd like to. That would be really awesome. And I would love to see you all back here next week. I'm live every Friday at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time, 12:30 Central, 1:30 Eastern, right here on Artworthy Life. And we do a full art journal page from start to finish and have a lot of fun. So I hope to see you there. In the meantime, happy Veterans Day. Thank you again, all of those who served, and I will see you next time. Bye.